All right, we are back again with another episode of Alumni on Air, and this is our video podcast. We bring amazing alums like this individual sitting right here. I bet you already know who it is. And they come into the Teach for America Memphis office and share their stories, how they got to Teach for America, what they did while in the Corps, and what's keeping them active in the work for one day. I am Dr. Jamisha Hayes. I am the Managing Director of Alumni Programming and our pre-service experience. And I am a 2011 TFA Memphis alum. I'm very proud of that. And I could not do this work without the amazing James Larkin. He's behind the camera. He's making sure the sound is going right. If you hear some drilling, it's because we're in the office and people are doing construction stuff. But we're going to keep it going. And again, thank you, James, for everything you do. He's our Director of Alumni Engagement and Communications, and couldn't do it without him. And we wouldn't be able to be here in this office in Memphis without this amazing charter member, Michael Whaley, or should I say Commissioner? Michael Whaley.
You can call me Mike.
Okay, so Mike. Mike Whaley's here with us. Mike he's a 2006 TFA Memphis Corps member, and so just before we get started with your story, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I came to Memphis actually as a part of that 2006 Charter Corps from Dallas, where I really spent a lot of time growing up and went to college. And honestly, never thought I would end up in Memphis back then. And even more surprised, I guess, that I'm still here almost 20 years later.
I know.
But wouldn't trade it in for anything.
Of course. I always ask this question. Is there a history behind your name? Like, my mom named me after my dad. I'm actually a junior, basically. My dad's James, I'm Jamisha, and all of that. Is there any history behind your name?
Well, it was certainly probably a popular name back then, but my parents are John and Wendy.
Oh.
And so sometimes people think it has something to do with Peter Pan.
I was just thinking that.
But I assure you it does not, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And then my last name, Whaley, means sort of a calm meadow on the side of the road. There's a town in the UK called Whaley, so it's spelled with two L's. And at some point, the extra L was dropped, and we have Whaley.
That is so nice. And you know, you do have a calm spirit, so it's like that kind of fits.
Calmness is required, as you can imagine, in my current role.
Yeah.
As chairman of the county commission, being calm and collected certainly I think is important.
It definitely is. And when I think about that, so you talked about where your name comes from, but I'm assuming some of that calmness comes from your upbringing. So where are you from, and how did you kind of pick up that calm spirit that you have?
Yeah, I probably get the calmness from my dad. I do receive a lot of strong qualities from my mother, but my dad is the calm one. And I think, growing up, we were always, taught certain values that sort of just stick with you. It's hard to point to one particular moment or another, but my brother and I've got a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me. He still lives in Dallas, but we would. We didn't get into too many fights. I think obviously with siblings, like it's gonna happen. Right. Usually over which video game we're playing.
100%. Did you win those fights?
All of them. Yeah. Don't ask him. But, 100% of them won. And I think we're quite blessed. We always grew up and went to public schools. We were able to live in decent neighborhoods, and had really good close friends. Right. I think back when I grew up, it was there weren't really many things to do outside of just going outside and playing. You play in the dirt, and you enjoyed it, and you really built strong relationships and authentic relationships. And I think we're seeing the increasing importance of human connection and being able to form those relationships. And that's something that I feel like I learned without even realizing it early on, by having to build relationships with my peers, because there was no Netflix to watch, right? There was no binging that you could do on the TV.
True. Yeah.
And so I think now, present day, that's still true. Like, we still need to build strong relationships to be able to move our community forward.
We do.
And I find that that's really a helpful skill to have in my current role, but both as a county commissioner and also as the director of Lee here in Memphis.
And so I think that's very important. I think connections are important. It's really a skill that we don't lean into as much, and it actually, I feel like now more than ever, it almost needs to be taught. But I think a lot of times you learn to embrace new people and engage with new people and learn more about leaning into your vulnerability of who you are in college, or in that experience kind of after you get out of high school, kind of get out there on your own. And so what was your college experience like? What college did you go to, and how did that lead into potentially joining Teach for America?
Yeah, I went to SMU, Southern Methodist, which is in Dallas, and so it was maybe 15, 20 minutes from my parents' house, and so I took advantage of that. I brought the dirty laundry over. When I was tired.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
When I was tired of the dorm food, could drive back, on Sunday or something. So I took advantage of that. But I majored in public policy, which is like kind of a hybrid of economics and political science, and thought that I did a semester out in DC when I was in college, and thought my path would have been to go back out there and work in the federal government or in the political sphere in some way. Little did I know that would come back eventually, but at the time, that's what I thought I would do. And I had a friend, he was a year older than me at SMU, who sort of mentioned in passing this program called Teach for America to me, and I just kind of blew it off. I was like, whatever, man, that's not for me. But it still piqued my interest, and so I did a little more research on my own. There might have been like a recruitment event, someone came on campus, and I remember keeping in touch with him. He was, because he was in the Corps at this point, like, because he had already graduated. He was placed in St. Louis, and I remember kind of just talking to him about the process, the interview process, what it was like, and went through with it. Thought I did terribly. You had to do a practice lesson. I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like,
what did you do for your practice lesson?
I did a math.
I did a math
lesson. It was about like positive and negative numbers multiplication.
Oh, okay, you were top tier.
I couldn't even tell you the standard. That's how long I've been out. But anyway, I ended up getting placed in Memphis, and I'd only been here once before, and not for very long. But I wanted to, get out of Texas, but not too far, and the idea of being part of a founding Corps was really exciting for me, and that's why I was very excited to be in Memphis.
So we leave Dallas, we get to Memphis, and what was the experience like for your summer? What did y'all do, summer training in Memphis, or did y'all go
were in
else?
Atlanta.
We went to Atlanta too for 2011. So you went to Atlanta first and
Yeah.
had Institute, which is Institute back then, right?
Right. We had Institute in Atlanta, which was quite nice, because we stayed at the former Olympic Village.
Okay, TFA, we didn't get that.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. I will say, it was a very good experience.
I bet it was, because we got, I think, GSA or something. Wow, I'm calling 2011 Corps right now and letting them know.
Well, let me tell you this though. Back in my day, we didn't have these fancy microphones, so you're all right.
Okay, so you finished. That's true.
Yeah.
And so you finished that experience. You come to Memphis, and so now you're in the teaching experience. So that's your first year. Where were you teaching? What was your content experience like? And what was that first year like? What was the highlight? And maybe even something that was like that was hard.
Yeah, I was placed at Getwell Elementary and taught like lower elementary. I taught ESL and I taught 5th grade, like self-contained, which is tough. Like all the subjects on 5th grade is a very challenging.
They are.
So that was a very tough year because you're seeing now a trend more toward departmentalizing elementary, certainly in the 5th grade, and even some cases younger than that, and that makes a lot of sense because it's quite specialized content. But I taught all the subjects, and it was very hard, right? Like if I'm honest, I was not the best. There were others that were much better. It was a struggle every day,
right?
But it's like you keep coming back because you realize how important it is, and you realize the impact that you can have as a single teacher, right? And that goes back to just growing up in Dallas and going to decent public schools, but they were quite diverse schools, and I think that was a great experience to have. And then when I got to SMU, it wasn't the same. Like no one else from my high school graduating class was with me there at SMU.
Interesting.
And they weren't. All of a sudden, like, wait a minute, like, why are they not here?
Right.
And they weren't there for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, it's quite expensive. You don't get a scholarship or some tuition benefit, right? I was fortunate enough to get that, but otherwise, it's a very expensive school. I mean, that's a huge barrier to people. And realizing that my friends who I went to high school with were all of a sudden sort of shut out of maybe the schools they would want to go to, or their options were limited. In many ways, I think. Led me down the path of wanting to become a teacher and focus most directly on the place where you can make the biggest impact on that trajectory, which is in the classroom as a teacher. And I still believe that today.
And so is that one of the reasons that really motivated you with Teach for America, or pulled you to Teach for America? I know you said you didn't know much about it, but as you continue to do the work, is that also what motivated you to keep doing it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, because that's it. Like, that is the direct impact right there, right? Remember I said I went to DC, and it's like, yeah, you can do that. You can get involved in policy, and you can be in that arena. But what better place than to make the direct impact on a group of humans' life trajectories than a teacher in the classroom.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what led me to want to do that.
100%. And I love that because I too thought about my experience growing up here in Memphis, and the school I got to teach in, I was so happy that it existed because I didn't see anything like that growing up. I did go to public schools, but it was amazing, that experience, and then being able to pour into students. And staying not just the first year, but a second year was even a great experience for me to watch my growth, but also the amazing kids that I work with to grow. What was your second year experience like, if you recall it?
I mean, just as hard. I'm not gonna lie and say it felt that much better. It was just as challenging because I had a totally different grade. I was moved up into 5th grade that second year.
Oh wow!
So I had to. I think I found out about it maybe the Friday before school started. So
if it happens to you all, no, it happens. You all, you still can make it out of it.
It's okay. Yeah, you can make it work. You make it work. Stay calm.
Stay calm.
And you read that book.
Read the book.
Yeah.
Okay, so you finished.
Nowadays, you probably ask ChatGPT.
You probably ask ChatGPT for lessons.
What do I do? Yeah.
So listen, I asked ChatGPT for a lot of things. I'm going to ask after this. I have some planning to do, and ChatGPT will be a part of that planning.
Right. Yeah.
So your second year completes, and then what happens after your second year? You finish the core. Did y'all have an actual celebration? What did y'all do to celebrate finishing your second year?
Yeah, we did. I'm sure we did. Yes, we had a thing at Rhodes College. I think a little.
My alma mater.
Okay, very good. There you go, Links. Yeah. So we had a little kind of graduation ceremony, if you will, there.
Yeah.
But I'll say, because I talked to current second years, now, and the mindset is still the same, right? 20 years later, it's like, what do I do next?
Yep.
Right. You created this sort of decision point, a natural decision point. It's a 2-year program, so sure you can keep doing it. And that's really a great option because your service is needed. But I went through that same inflection point kind of halfway through my second year of, do I keep stay in the classroom? Do I want to stay at my current school? Do I want to do something else? What is that other thing? And you try to fit these thoughts in within the, trying to figure out what your lesson plans are going to look like, what your seating chart is going to look like, what with the different schedules, like trying to keep all that straight. So the free time to think about your own plans is often limited. But one of the things that was important to me when I moved, because I remember I didn't really know I didn't know anyone here before I came. And so one thing that was important for me was to try to find ways to get plugged into the community, into the Memphis community. So that meant seeking out different leadership organizations that had different cohorts that would bring people together from all sectors. So not just educators, but people in in law, people in business and finance, and so you can expand your network, because I felt like that was an important thing to do, to feel rooted in Memphis. And the biggest takeaway I had from that early experience was just how appreciative and supportive other people were of what we were doing. Because I think sometimes as a teacher you feel like the world's against you and it's so hard, and why am I doing this? And there's so many reasons to not be doing it. And then when you get out there outside of the circle of fellow educators and you start talking to other young professionals, other seasoned professionals, executives across the city and community, they are in awe of what we're doing. And that made me feel really good. Okay, that's great. And so it made me feel better about the trajectory and the path, and would have felt great about continuing in the classroom. I just so happened to meet someone at one of these networking events that I was talking about, that was a recruiter for a school leadership fellowship program called BES. And the concept is that they kind of train you over the course of a year on how to build and run a high-performing charter school. And that sounded really good to me, because I had this entrepreneurial side of me. I mean, my plan up until then was either stay in the classroom or open an ice cream shop. So they're quite similar. So that was my fork in the road. And I was agonizing over I don't want to I feel like I can make an impact. Although again, I'm not the best, but I'm trying to get better. But also we need a good ice cream shop.
We do need a good ice cream shop. I wish you would have did that too.
It would have been ahead of the curve,
it
right?
Been
because ahead of the curve, we went through the froyo phase.
We did.
And gelato. Could have been there.
You could have been there, And the Area 51 was down here.
Yeah. So anyway, so I met this recruiter, and she was talking to me hey, we can teach you how to build your own school. And I'm thinking maybe this is it. This is the third way, right? I can stay, because I felt at this point very deeply committed to educational equity, but knew I had this desire to build something. And it just looked like, this is the right thing to do. I looked into it, looked good program. So I went and applied for it over winter break, that my second year. So I was back home in Dallas with my family. I applied, submitted the application. I get a phone call within minutes of submitting this application. And it's the founder of BES, Linda Brown. And Linda calls me, and first of all, I'm I don't recognize the number. Who is this? It's Christmas Eve. And she's like, can you be in Boston in 2 days?
Oh my goodness.
For an interview. Which is my birthday, the day after Christmas.
I did not know you.
So so I'm a Christmas baby. But anyway, sure. I mean, okay, let's go. And so they flew me to Boston, and it was freezing cold. Did the interview, went in to do the interview. Thought I bombed it. Like just it was just terrible. And they made me. They looking back on it, you realize how good they are. But the whole time during the interview, they're just like, no, like we made a mistake bringing you up here. Like that was just not a. It's not a good answer. Like, you must have missed something. What? Okay. All right. And so it got done with the interview, and then had to go back in the cold and walk around because my flight wasn't until later that night. Walk around in the wind and frigid tundra of Boston in December. Yeah. And went back home, went back to school, in January, and I don't know, maybe a week or so, I get an email at the end of the school day from Linda Brown, and she says, "Dear Mr. Whaley, I understand that ice cream shop is going to have to wait at least 7 years, but we're going to accept you into this fellowship program." Oh my goodness! Like, wow. Could not believe it. Yeah. So the rest, ended up, founding Memphis College Prep through that program, which is still running today.
It is still running today. And so you founded Memphis College Prep, thought you bombed this interview. I'm noticing this pattern.
Yeah.
But then you jump in and you create a school. And you get to, I know that there are core members that were at that school, so many leaders that have come through that school. What do you think about that experience and being that you founded that, but also seeing it grow, that post you leaving?
Yeah, I mean, it's very emotional, right? When you see, and actually the most rewarding part of it is seeing some of our founding class right now at MCP and like keeping in touch with them. They're now, many of them are in their second year of college. These were kindergartners when we started, our founding class who took a chance on us. Like those kindergartners, they took a chance on us, but it was those families that really did, that said, we want this for our kids, for their first year of school. We want this school. And to still keep in touch with them, with those families, with those kids, and see where they're in colleges across the country. Some of them are already professionals making professional salaries. That is why you do it.
That is why you do it.
Right? These are the actual students from our first year that we knew had a lot of promise and opportunity, and it was up to us, among others that came after, to pour into them, to expect of them, to believe in them, and to support them. And now we're seeing that generation become the leaders of today.
I know.
And that's pretty cool.
That is so cool. And I definitely remember seeing just amazing core members come through there. They talk about their kids. When I joined the core, that was one of the schools that people really wanted to be a part of. I did not know you at the time. I didn't know anything about you, but I knew that was a really great school in Memphis. And as a native Memphian, I am thankful that you brought MCP to Memphis.
Yeah.
So how long were you the founder and not founder, but how long were you working at MCP and, before you transitioned to something else?
Yeah, so it was about 8 years.
My goodness.
I from sort of founding to when I handed over the reins of leadership. And it was timed with the kind of stepping up of our kids to the next school.
Yeah.
So we're a kindergarten through fifth grade school, so I saw them through fifth grade and off to middle school. And in fact, I remember at our graduation ceremony of sorts for that founding kindergarten class into sixth grade, that's when I made the announcement. So that night, I was so nervous about sharing that news with our families, but I knew they couldn't. But they were leaving too, so like, they kind of knew it was probably better to tell them than like the third grade.
Right.
But it was quite emotional, and just in a way, I was stepping up with them, I guess, to the next thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, what was that decision like? What was the next thing, and how did you feel making that decision of I don't have an ice cream shop.
Yeah.
I have taught, I have founded a school and led and supported these babies to get from kindergarten to middle school, and now I'm on to this next thing. What are you feeling and thinking in that moment?
Yeah. Well, one of the, and other school leaders I know will understand this, but like in those early years, you are just running, you're putting out fires, you're trying to figure out, there's just so many things. And usually the things you don't even see.
Yeah.
Like, is the wiring proper? You know, like, gosh, like, is my mechanical unit bringing in the right amount of fresh air? Those are the things you're thinking about, you know, in addition to, is your curriculum rigorous enough? Like, are your assessments aligned? You know, those are all very important as well. And as we grew and I was able to hire a principal to kind of run the day-to-day operations, I had more time to sort of step back and really ask the question, why? You know, why is it that you know, we seem to be getting lower quality meals for our kids versus other schools? Right? Like, why is it that, you know, we're not getting all the different funding streams that we probably should to be able to support our students? And you know, started digging into that, like, all right, who can do something about it? And in that moment of advocacy, I guess, led me to really understand the importance of education policy and advocacy and organizing, and that there is this world that exists outside of your school and your classroom that in many cases is making decisions that impact your classroom and school directly. Yeah. And that, you know, if we want to truly continue to advocate, you know, for our students and our families and the communities we're serving, like, we need to have a seat at the table where those decisions are being made, or quite frankly, we need to be running the discussion at the table about the policy decisions and laws that are being implemented.
Yes, we should.
So that, you know, kind of ironically, that was around that time, the organization I now am still with, Lee, was looking to launch its Memphis region. And, you know, going back to that, like, entrepreneurial itch of sorts, it was sort of the right place, right time of an opportunity to really double down on what I still continue to feel like is such an important arena for educators to be a part of, and also the opportunity to be able to build it as a new region, much like we built you know, TFA as a new region in 2006.
And that's a powerful move, but it also, to me, all aligns together, right? This idea of equity, this idea of fighting for everyone being able to have not just a seat at the table, but be able to comfortably feel like they should be at the table and to be able to engage in that conversation. And as you stated, control the conversation. And so with that, when you are thinking about the experience for alumnihood and what you're doing now as an alum, how do you continue to pull on that story of fighting for equity, fighting for change, making sure everybody has access to the table? How do you keep that momentum going after being, well, you're still the leader of Lee, but like, how do you keep that going now?
Well, you know, the thing with advocacy is that there's always a new issue. Right? Issues come and go, but leadership persists. And so it's really about leadership. And you know, if we can help develop more strong leaders who are civically minded, they can tackle whatever challenges or problems are thrown at us. Because if we only focus on the problems of today, we won't be equipped to be able to deal with the problems of tomorrow. So that's why, you know, my focus is really about just developing great leaders and developing transferable skills, you know, that can apply to whatever issue you're particularly passionate about, and realizing the impact that you can have. Sometimes it's just like visually seeing that you actually can make a difference on this thing. It's not hopeless. So it's a part of that work is showing people that, you know, look, it's one person, literally one person could make a difference. But imagine if you got organized with like other people that felt the same way as you, and you were able to actually get something done because you were working together. Right? So helping our members see that pathway is a big part of developing that leadership.
Yeah.
But being able to like plug them into the right opportunities to take advantage of it is equally important. And I think we're blessed to be, in a region in Memphis, like where you can actually have those connections with people.
Yeah.
And you can, as someone again who wasn't from here and didn't know anyone here.
Yeah.
It doesn't preclude you from sharpening your leadership lens and getting engaged and getting involved. Because if you actually go out there and you're connecting with others, like they want that, like they're hungry for that leadership, right? They want more people who are from Memphis, not from Memphis, whatever. Like if we need good people to step up and lead, and to be able to improve our community, to be able to work together, to create a vision and enact a vision of the world that we want to see.
Yeah, we do need all of those things. And that to me just sounds like, the vision of one day, right? Everyone being able to fight for educational equity for all children requires a community of civic-minded, engaged people. It requires a community of people caring and showing up, whether it be medically, in the law field, politically, accessing all avenues to ensure that kids are able to thrive and live their dreams to fruition. Do you think the work you're currently doing, I know you're doing LEAD, but you're also you didn't go to DC, but you got back into the political arena.
Yeah.
Do you think that work is allowing you to live out your dream of your vision of one day?
Yeah, sure. I do. I mean, I think that's, we need people at all levels working together toward that. That's the only way it's done. And the more focused we are, I think the more effective we'll be. Because sometimes it seems overwhelming, like the things that we're trying to accomplish. But one thing that I've found is that the more you narrow the focus and get really specific and figure out like who are the people that will that I can work with to get this done, allows you to actually get those policy wins. Right? One of the most important ones for me was expanding access to high quality early childhood education, to be able to grow quality affordable pre-K across Memphis and Shelby County. And that was an issue I developed a passion for as a teacher, because even though I didn't teach pre-K, I saw the challenges that many students would come into kindergarten with because they didn't have access to it. Because there weren't enough seats, right? So some got it, but a lot didn't. And then the quality varied, right? So that being able to see the impact of that and how much better prepared a kindergartner is when they can identify letter names, letter sounds, they have concepts of print, like they know their own name, all of these things that, as adults we might take for granted are quite important, to that early school experience for students. And so I took that, direct experience as a teacher in the policy arena as a county commissioner in my first year on the commission, to be able to fill a gap that happened with federal funding, to be able to continue and expand the number of seats available for high quality pre-K education. And that's something as we go forward into the next year, we're looking to up the ante on that and expand it eventually to universal pre-K for anyone across Shelby County.
That's amazing.
And to do it both for your traditional 4-year-old students, but also down into 3-year-old students. And so that's the vision that we've cast, and we are making efforts every day to execute on that. To be able to get to this vision of one day, but it's a very specific thing, right? But I mean, like how important that in of itself is to the broader vision.
And I think I love this idea of specificity and drilling in on something because it can feel like it's too much. Even when you're teaching in the classroom, there's so many issues that you could focus on, not just with the curriculum. It could just be teaching the curriculum, but it's also like my kids need clothes, my kids need, just extra time outside, whatever it is. You could become overwhelmed with that. If you're not careful, and then you're not able to do anything that you really want to do, get the impact you want to get. So what advice would you give to our incoming core members? We have 2025 core coming in, and they are sitting here with, so it's chair of the county commission.
Right.
So they're sitting here virtually with the chair of the county commission with you. What advice would you give to them about entering the core and doing the work of fighting for one day?
Yeah. Well, so one thing that I share a lot with people now is this concept of building your brand, and it's really in the context of your sort of professional resume, like your LinkedIn. Like brand is how you identify yourself. Like what are the 2 or 3 things that you want people to know about you? And I think that lens, when you apply it to even someone who's coming in for the first time to be a teacher, like think about like what's the 1 or 2 things that you care most about, that you want people to identify you with, that you really want to go deep in, because that can help you really stand out and find your passion, right? When you find that like one thing, because for me it was pre-K. So I'd rather go deeper there than try to be the answer for everything, because you can't. There's no way you can do that, right? Other people will be tackling other things, but try to figure out what your thing is. And if you're an incoming core member, you might not know. You're unlikely, probably, I didn't know. Like you're not going to know coming in what that thing is maybe for you. But your lived experience as like being a teacher, you might figure that out pretty quickly. Right? What's the thing you want to go deeper on, and just focus on that. Like realize like other stuff, like maybe some other time. Like don't worry about it. Figure out what's most important to you.
And I think that worked for you, because you had lots of different things to think about this ice cream shop. I'm gonna hold you accountable to this ice cream shop.
One day.
But
I'm calling one day.
I'm like, well, oh my gosh, that should be one of the scoops. That has to be one of the flavors. Is one day. Okay.
Yeah,
so
blue.
It should be blue. Okay.
Natural blue.
Natural. Look, in the Memphis Blues. Okay, the same. Okay, so you had a lot of different options, and you focused in as a core member, and then you said something I think that we should really hone in on, is that in that transition when you are starting the core, you kind of took a risk, but when you're about to finish your commitment, there's a risk there too. In that second year, about to go into alumnihood. What advice would you give someone who is going into that space? So some of our core members are about to go on into their alumnihood. What is your advice for those that are finishing up the school year, and right there in a couple of weeks they'll be alums? What would your advice for them be?
Well, certainly like don't lose the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Like you chose to be a part of TFA for a reason. So like no matter what you do next, like don't lose that your why, like why you, and ask yourself that, because it's easy to forget it in the midst of the day to day.
That's true.
But like ask yourself why you're doing it, and make sure that whatever you're doing next fits in with that. Because otherwise, and I've seen it now, over the years, that if you lose that, you end up actually coming back to it. You're like, gosh, like what I was doing was so off base of why I, the purpose that I want, that I've come back now to being a teacher, or I've come back to trying to, work in literacy or in a nonprofit space. And I've seen that happen too. So the best advice I can give is, as you're going off and choosing, in many cases, choosing to keep doing what you're doing. And quite frankly, we need more people that do that, because not only do you get better at it, but there's something to be said about getting better at what you do. So that you can serve at a higher level, and you could also explore the other things that interest you. I think there's a lot of value to it, but it also does a strong service to the school or to the organization that you're serving when you continue to serve there.
Yeah, I taught past my core commitment, and I definitely think I wouldn't change it. It was a really great experience because I got the opportunity to look with my kids and see them off from 7th grade to 8th grade to then high school, which is great. And so, and then as an alum in that space, and I think even being there, being in the school that my placement school for 4 years, I got to be with around a lot of core members, incoming core members, but also other alums. And we got to have some great conversations and push each other on our next steps and hold each other accountable to what we said and what we're going to do. And so I think as a fellow alum here in this space, what would be your advice to other alums? How would you push us, hold us accountable to continue to do our work and continue to be the best that we can be?
Yeah, I mean, I think for one, it's quite inspiring when you get together with other alums. So I think trying to intentionally find ways to do that, and it doesn't necessarily mean like TFA has to facilitate that every time, but when you get other alum together to talk about what they're doing, the challenges they're facing, their hopes for the future, going back to what we talked about when we first started this, the importance of relationships.
Yep.
And building those and continue to foster those relationships with other TFA alum from across the years, and encouraging them, inspiring them, because we've all shared that same experience, and we're all out there doing the work in different domains that are all connected to this concept of equity in our community. So I think being able to kind of continue to get together and learn from each other helps push each other and hold each other accountable, and find new opportunities, new projects, like new visions and ways to work together. I find that like thrilling in a way and exciting. So I would certainly lend my support to being able to get get folks together. Get folks together to kind of talk about what's next.
I love that. And what's next for you? What are you thinking about? You are at 20 years here in Memphis. What are you thinking about for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
I don't know.
That's great. I wanted him to say that because I think one of the most powerful things is that what I've learned about you from this interview is your I don't know is going to be something wonderful and amazing, because you always are faced with the I don't know, and then something comes in and you jump in and you attack it and you really and truly thrive and give it your best. Yeah. And so I'm excited that you don't know, because I know the next thing is going to be even better than what you're doing now.
Ice cream shop.
Ice cream shop! Yes. And so with that, you all, we're going to bring this to close. I know you probably have more questions. I know you probably want to know more. So you can always contact us through Teach for America, or you can contact Mike Whaley in his various capacities. You can get in contact with him. But we are so excited to be closing out this episode. I think it's our final episode of the season for Alumni on Air, and we had to end with a bang, had to end with something great. And if you're dreaming of an ice cream shop, go do it. If you're dreaming of coming to Teach for America, do it. But whatever you do, focus in on it. Really dig in, and then don't forget to look around for the people around you and build those relationships just like Mike has been doing. All right, love you. See you later. Bye.